Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Teikametrics weekly webinar. I'm Liz Downing. I'm the e-commerce marketing manager at Teikametrics. I'm happy to have Patrick Henschel, Senior Director of Global Accounts at Feedonomics with me today. Say hi, Patrick.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to meet you.
So today we're going to talk about key considerations when moving to new marketplaces. So whether you're selling on Amazon and you're thinking about Walmart, or you're thinking about Target, or if you're only selling on eBay and you're thinking about Amazon, these are just things that you should think about when you're thinking about moving to a new marketplace. This session is being recorded. Again, I say the session is being recorded. It will be emailed out to all registrants after we finish broadcasting, not right away, but pretty soon after. And if you have any questions, please type them into the question box in GoToWebinar, and we'll get to those at the end. We do have a team that's logged in also, so if something's a burning question that's super relevant to the slide we're on or the topic that we're on, I'm happy to throw that in there. I want this to be more of a conversation than it is us just talking at you. But if you've got any questions at all, again, question section of GoToWebinar. The session is being recorded. And without further ado, let's jump into the agenda. So today we're going to talk about the criteria you should use when choosing the next marketplace to list your products, common missteps to avoid when you're getting your listings live, how different marketplaces vary when it comes to advertising, which is super important and getting more and more important as the days go on, and processes stay ahead of the pack as you grow across multiple marketplaces. Feedonomics is expert at helping you get onto other marketplaces and to be successful there. And Teikametrics helps you advertise once you're on certain marketplaces. We're all going to do Q&A at the end. But again, if you've got a question that's like super relevant, don't raise your hand. Just type the question into the question box and we'll tackle it as soon as we can. So if you don't know who Teikametrics is, we are a technology platform, but also an expert managed services team that helps you grow your sales on Amazon and Walmart and soon other channels. And we've got some great big brands that we work with. We've got some small brands that we work with, but we're committed to the success of every seller and brand owner ever. Patrick, why don't you tell us a little bit about Feedonomics?
Absolutely. Feedonomics is a feed management and optimization platform, as well as an order synchronization middleware solution. So there's typically two components when we think about integrating merchants on marketplaces. One is getting all of their product data from their e-commerce instance. Maybe it's BigCommerce, Shopify, Magento, Salesforce Commerce Cloud, anything like that. We need to be able to get your product information, like your titles and your descriptions and all of that. We need to be able to get that out of those platforms. And then we need to be able to get those listings created out on the various marketplaces and optimized. That's something that Feedonomics specializes in. Much like Teikametrics, we both have a platform that facilitates this, as well as an expert managed services team. The second component to what we do involves syncing the orders. So now when an order gets placed out on the marketplace, we need to be able to take that order and insert it back into your central e-commerce system so that you can do all of your order fulfillment for these various marketplaces within the primary stack that you're familiar with using. So those are the sort of core functionalities of Feedonomics with regard to marketplaces.
That's awesome. So what is your criteria for choosing a new marketplace? Do you just go in blind? Do you throw a dart against a dartboard you made with all the marketplaces on it, like that nice little graphic that we just had on the last slide? Or maybe there should be some strategy involved. So the easiest thing to figure out is if your competitors are on that marketplace. That's an easy search. You look for your competitors, and odds are if they're there, they've got plenty of reviews. That means that there's a demand for your product on that marketplace, so it's probably worth investing in. Now, knowing if your customer's there is a different story. You can do a poll among your current customers. You can do some polls on social, but you can also access external data. I know Walmart is really good about publishing customer profiles and breakdowns to help people understand what types of consumers are searching on walmart.com. But another great thing about new marketplaces is the new audience that you're going to get exposure to, right? So you do want to know if your customers are shopping on the marketplace that you're considering, but you also need to consider that marketplace's native customers that might be a brand new audience for you too. And then you have to know what products are a good fit. You might have some of your product line that is perfect for another marketplace, but others might not. I talk about this a lot when I talk about international Amazon expansion. You have to do like localization research to make sure your product is going to be successful on a different Amazon marketplace. That's the same with different e-commerce marketplaces too. Like you're not going to want to sell a prefab like doohickey on Etsy necessarily. Um, and a lot of different marketplaces don't have places for handmade, that kind of stuff. So you're going to want to really do your research and due diligence to make sure that the products that you're choosing to launch on those other marketplaces or that other marketplace are going to be a good fit and that you're pretty confident that you're going to be successful. And then if that marketplace has an ad ecosystem built into it, that will help you scale. We'll get to that a little bit later, but obviously Amazon is the champion for the different types of ad products they offer, but the other marketplaces are really catching up and offering great advertising solutions. So you need to know what your options are there and have a strategy around that before you launch as well. Um, Patrick, I think
Yeah.
that probably the most difficult part of this, though, is that once you choose a marketplace, you have to make sure that you get your products there in the way that that marketplace requires. And then how do you keep them updated? So can you talk a little bit around that?
Yeah, absolutely. What we see is that every marketplace typically has their own set of criteria that they want merchants to adhere to when sending them data. Um, you know, depending on the marketplace, they might have 20,000 different categories that any product could potentially fit into. Some marketplaces just have fewer category options to choose from. Some marketplaces have a string length of, like 100, and others have a string length of something closer to 50 or 60. And so all of these little details, they add up and they have a bearing on what kind of data you want to ultimately send to that marketplace if you're looking to succeed there. So commonly what we see is people, they for lack of options, they take like a one size fits all approach and they kind of send the data as they have it out to these different systems in whatever shape it's in their e-commerce platform. They just grab it and they send it. And even that can be sometimes challenging because they still need to build an API integration with the marketplace to be able to submit the data there. Or they need to manually upload all the products, right? Maybe there's a plugin. If they're on like one of the standard e-commerce platforms, there might be like an Amazon app or a Walmart app that lets them directly send their listings out to those marketplaces. But what we typically see is in all of these scenarios, there's very little attention paid to how the data is actually going to be crafted to present on the marketplace. And so you're going to be at a competitive disadvantage because if you think about it, really the game here is, can you get in? There are some variations, like if you're the one who actually has control over the way that the listings present, like let's say you're the registered brand on Amazon, then the way you optimize your data matters a lot, because the way you name your products, the way you compose your descriptions, that's going to be the dominant data that Amazon's referencing when they potentially show listings against a search query. So especially if you're the registered brand, it becomes crucially important to make sure that your data is optimized, that you have brand in your title, that you have all of this sort of proper nouns that people are likely to search with when they're looking for the products that you're selling. And it's something that we can help with. You may think that you already have that potentially dialed in, but unless you've really dug into it and investigated, chances are there are a few missed opportunities there. And that's an area where Feedonomics kind of comes in and helps analyze your titles, analyze all of your data to make sure that it's in alignment with the best practices of that particular marketplace. And we can do that not just for Amazon, but for eBay and for Walmart and for all of these various marketplaces in your ecosystem, so that you can be in the best position to succeed across the board. That's what we're going for. Feedonomics is basically functioning as that hub to optimize and distribute all of your product data to all of the marketplaces that you're looking to sell on.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then the second one, I think, is also it's tied into that. How would you go about synchronizing your product and order data system across multiple systems? We just spoke about product data. Orders are the other part of it, and I kind of alluded to this at the beginning. But what you don't want is a scenario where you're selling a product. Let's say you've got 100 products in stock, right? So in your let's say it's BigCommerce is your e-commerce platform. So you've listed 100 there, and now there are 100 products available out on Amazon and Walmart, just to keep it simple. And you sell 70 products on Amazon. Well, now you really only have 30 products left available in stock, but wonder if within the next hour you sell 70 products on Walmart. Okay, now you're in trouble because you've oversold. You're stocking out, right? And that's a problem. It's a big problem with marketplaces, because if that happens once, and then potentially if it happens more than once, it's very easy to get suspended, and it's very difficult to get back on that marketplace. It can be very time consuming. So it's crucially important that you have the ability to have your orders flow from these marketplaces into a system, in this case BigCommerce, but it could be any e-commerce platform, where you can easily fulfill on those orders. And what's also important along the way as that happens is the inventory gets decremented within your e-commerce instance, so that the next time we push to Walmart and Amazon in this example, all of your inventory counts are up to date. So it limits overselling. We can also add inventory buffers to mitigate the risk of overselling even further. All of that's configurable within the Feedonomics platform.
That's great, because that actually was our next.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Sure.
You also, when you're launching to a different marketplace, other things to consider are it's not automatic. On established marketplaces, it takes money to make money. You know, all marketplaces are pay to play. So your product launch is a race to establish product market fit before you run out of cash and before you end up like with too much inventory, right? So that's why earlier I said it was important to understand the native advertising offerings on each marketplace that you're considering, but also if you're having trouble driving traffic to listings, you can consider some off platform advertising options as well. I know that like when you do a search for advertising on Wish or advertising on one of the other like less traditional channels, people like Taboola, who we just did a webinar with not too long ago, come up because there are different advertising options that you can consider. But getting really deep entrenched into that native marketplace advertising like ecosystem is pretty important, because that's what helps inform your total spend on advertising, your total spend on inventory. It gives you a full look at your financials, and it helps you understand if that particular marketplace is being successful for you, because obviously that on-platform advertising is going to be a lot more effective than any off-platform advertising, which is more of a spray and pray kind of model. So this, I think the first thing that we're going to talk about in common missteps is what Patrick has been talking about in terms of your listing quality on each marketplace, your ability to fulfill orders on each marketplace. But Patrick, let's talk a little bit about getting retail ready for different marketplaces, because I think it does look different. Retail ready for Amazon isn't quite the same as retail ready for like Home Depot or Target, you know, and obviously having an idea of how to get retail ready for each marketplace is pretty crucial before you even like hit the go button, right?
Yeah, certainly. I think you know, basic table stakes are that you need to be able to fulfill orders when they come in, right? If you're the one doing the fulfillment, if it's a standard third-party model where you're the one who's actually gonna fulfill the order that comes in, that's obviously crucially important. And so you need to have that infrastructure in place, and that's kind of what I was alluding to before. a lot of times when people are just getting started on marketplaces, they figure, okay, I'm just gonna log into that marketplace every day and see how many orders I have, and you get the like email alerts when you get an order from the marketplace, and I'll tell you to go and fulfill the order, and you can do that, certainly. But the moment you start to scale, the moment that you actually are having a larger number of orders coming in, it becomes very challenging to manage even one marketplace in that way, let alone several. So I consider a crucial element of retail readiness having whatever your order management approach is going to be, and order fulfillment approach is going to be, you need to have that dialed in. At least you need to have like line of sight to how you're going to implement that as you scale, because otherwise what can happen is you can be a victim to your own success. And as you start to sell more, you don't have the technical resources or the sort of roadmap in place to deal with that. And again, it can kind of quickly curb your momentum when the marketplace is like, oh, you're not. And this is the last bullet. I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but if you start failing to fulfill on those performance requirements, you get docked by the marketplace. So I would say definitely make sure you have an idea of how you're going to fulfill on these orders when they do. Expect that they will come, and know how you're going to fulfill on them when they do come.
And also categories are different across different marketplaces. So just because your product's in a certain category on Amazon, the categories on Walmart, for instance, are different. And I've talked to a lot of sellers that said, well, I just didn't really think about it, but it turns out that my product was supposed to be in this category, and that really impacted my visibility for my product. We actually have a question from somebody that says that their number one product is selling 0 on Walmart. They didn't use any data, just went for Walmart with their successful products on Amazon, but it's not working. And that could be a question of, did you put it in the right category? Did you format it correctly? Did you make sure that your competitors were there? Did you make sure that there was a need or a want for that product? Like everything we've talked about so far. But if somebody's in that,
can I just add a point to that, Liz, just to round that out? I totally agree with you. And that I just want to say that can be complicated. Like it shouldn't be expected that you're able to discern what all the proper categories are for all of your products, and that you should be able to apply them at scale. If you've got more than, like if you've got 5 products, okay, sure, you should be able to go online and figure out what is the correct Amazon category, what is the correct Walmart category. But if you've got like 100 or 500 or several thousand, how can you expect to do that, right? So the way Feedonomics works, just to kind of hopefully make this clear, is we have what we call transformers rules that say if the title contains the word shoe, for example, or the description, let's say, contains the word shoe, and this person's going to Amazon, well, then assign this category, and it would be the appropriate Amazon category or the appropriate Walmart category in that case. So doing it algorithmically allows you to achieve what Liz, what you were just describing, in a scalable way, because otherwise it's just way too difficult to do when you have a large number of products.
So if somebody's in a situation where they've gone ahead and launched on a channel and it's not performing for them, are there things that you can do to help them figure out why?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we would want to do a consult with them and find out. I would say like it's a perfect synergy in a way with Teikametrics, because we really don't focus on the spend management side of things on the marketplaces. So that could be a potential area where they're not performing well because they're not leveraging that ad ecosystem that you described. And so that's an area where you guys would need to come in and basically highlight for them where the missed opportunities are. On our end, we would talk a lot about what is the structure of their data? Is their data set up to succeed? And are they conforming to the different seller performance requirements? Because if they're not, they're not winning the buy box. It could be for a variety of reasons. But we're very data focused, and when you guys are focused on the ad ecosystem, there's a really nice synergy there. Also, just to add on to the point, because the data that we're optimizing underpins the performance of those ads to some degree, right?
Right. Well, and we also like to dig into the data to see, like in terms of not only what your ad spend is and what similar sellers are spending on ads, but we also like to dig in to see other marketplace insights. So like who's owning the share of voice for a certain search term and that kind of stuff. So I encourage you to reach out to both of us. We'll both have contact information available in the replay, and I'll make sure you can get a hold of us, because if you're not advertising, we can help you do that, but we can help you figure out before you start advertising what you should be advertising. And Patrick can figure out if, like, for instance, the
Yeah,
second bullet, like, I think consistency between marketplaces, like, obviously you have to do your listing the way the marketplace requires, but if they're super successful on Amazon, are you using the same photos?
right.
Because if somebody is aware of your brand and aware of your products on Amazon and they're searching on Walmart, do they recognize you? You know, so there's a fine line to walk between making sure that you're compliant to the marketplace that you're launching on and selling on, that's other than your usual marketplace, but also making sure your product consistency is the same across marketplaces so that people recognize it and they don't think that, you know, oh, well, this might just be counter, because, you know, counterfeiters right on every single
Yeah,
channel.
sure. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, I think it's cool that anybody listening to this, you could be very easy for you to walk away with two different audits basically that are focusing on different elements of your marketplace setup, right? We'll be much more, I guess, data centric with respect to the catalog and also seller performance to some degree. And you guys are going to focus obviously in those areas you just discussed. So having both of those reference points, I think will be useful, if nothing else, for you to know, like, okay, how am I doing here, right? That's
Right.
the cool.
And another this third bullet about going beyond basic listing requirements. This is something I see a lot with people who sell on Amazon, is that they'll do the bare bones product description, bullet points, do the bare bones amount of product photos, and that's just not quite enough these days to beat your competitors and to really win on any given marketplace. So as much as I preach listing optimization and listing expansion, making sure your listings are really, really well written on Amazon, it's best to just start off on a marketplace with an exemplary listing, because that also informs how successful your advertising is. If you don't have the right keywords in your product description and the different parts of your listing, then you can't advertise on those keywords and you're dead in the water. So go above and beyond and spend the time to make an excellent listing on any marketplace that you're selling on.
Absolutely.
And to piggyback on the seller performance side of things, again, I come from the Amazon world, and it's really easy to mess it up with Amazon. We were talking about inventory, and we're going to talk about inventory again, but everything is measured by Amazon in terms of your success as a seller. So you've got the inventory performance index, you've got your seller performance, you've got your order defect rate, you've got all of these metrics that you have to keep in good health and good standing in order to even play the game. And then you've got a super competitive marketplace where you need to have the best listings, the best product photos, and the smartest advertising strategy in order to get on page one, because most of the purchases that happen on Amazon happen on page one, usually within the first two listings. So while other marketplaces might not be quite so competitive yet, although Walmart is heating up, it's best to start out with that competitive mindset. But it's also vitally, vitally important to understand all of the seller performance requirements for each channel that you're selling on. Pay attention to terms of service and seller policies to make sure you're not breaking any rules. That's the sticky wicket with Amazon, right? Is that it's just so easy to break a rule that you didn't even know existed, because maybe it didn't even make it into documentation yet. But turns out that's the thing with Amazon, is you can't say, oh, sorry, I didn't know that was the rule. You have to
Yeah.
read the rule book before you can play the game. And it's going to get like that on every single marketplace eventually. And there's no reason not to just understand, have your playbook, have the rule book, make sure that you're completely compliant on every single channel. This is just a best practice for business, and it's a business continuity must. I
And
could
I think
soapbox
it
about that for
goes without
days.
saying, Liz, I just want to add, it goes without saying that anything you do for one marketplace will, the sort of safeguards and, like you're talking about, the due diligence that you do, the learning that you do will at least largely transfer to these other marketplaces, because a lot of them take cues from each other in terms of how they develop. Like, we're not talking about it so much here, but even in Instagram and Google have their own kind of marketplaces, right? Facebook Shops and Buy on Google. And so they're looking at Amazon and Walmart in terms of how they're constructing their ecosystem. And so now, as you guys put these assurances in place, you put the proper technology in place with Teikametrics or with Feedonomics or with whatever solutions you're using, they're going to put you in a position to succeed more broadly as more of these different marketplaces become available. Absolutely, because these are common problems.
Absolutely. So we're back to inventory. So your biggest don't have your supply chain locked down. Your whole omni-channel, holistic, this is your stuff and this is where it's going, and you have enough of it, but not too much. It's hard enough to just make sure your inventory is like spot on with one channel. When you're adding other channels, it gets far more complex, and I highly recommend getting help. You know, there are professionals out there that will help you manage your supply chain, but making sure your inventory levels are right spot on to satisfy orders on each of the channels you're selling on, making sure you've got a clean fulfillment system. Do you have it all? This seller that said that their successful Amazon products weren't selling on Amazon sent their products in through WFS. So it's all just sitting there, but not selling. So for you, I do recommend that if you're not advertising, let's advertise those products and see if we can get some movement there. But do get in touch with me, because we can talk to Walmart about, you know, releasing some of your inventory if you need to. They will do that. So the second point is, not to beat a dead horse, but you can't port your product data over from one marketplace to the other with no changes in specialization whatsoever. And that's what Patrick and his team help you with, is making sure you're not just slapping a listing up there with no knowledge and no research or insight into how it will perform on that new channel.
Yeah, I think you said it well. It's been said. For anybody that's maybe new listening, it's the most important thing you can do is pay attention to what that marketplace is asking for and shape your data accordingly. And again, it's really difficult to do when you're on your own and out there, and you don't have really good technology to be able to facilitate that. But that is exactly what we specialize in. So the two components are the tech that can basically assign the right categories and map the right attributes on a per marketplace basis. That's important and useful. And then the other element to it, of course, is having the team that knows how to use that platform. So like Feedonomics, there are maybe some solutions out there that are more self-service oriented. We recognize it's like, okay, people have enough to worry about, enough to be thinking about. Our team just goes in, we look at your data, we get it out of your platform for you, and we map it out to all of the different marketplaces and optimize it along the way. And then we're there as an ongoing resource to make sure that you're always kind of crafting your data to be in alignment with those marketplaces. So I would encourage you to reach out to us, and we'll discuss how we could support that process for you.
Absolutely, because like this last bullet, not to skip around, but if you're unwilling or unable to commit the time to continually improve your performance on a new channel, then you're not going to improve. So if you have a service that helps you start out correctly and then helps you stay correct and optimize along the way, I think that that saves you a lot of time. So I mean, I have people that are just selling on Amazon right now that don't have time to optimize their own listings. That's why there are companies that just focus on listing optimization for Amazon. So if you don't have time to optimize your own existing listings on Amazon, then how do you have the time to manually go in, figure out how your listing should look and be formatted for Walmart or Target or Wish or whatever? Like me personally, I would just get somebody to do it for me. And even when you do it right, right, exactly. I would say, hey guys, at Feedonomics, please do this for me. And make me win there, please. And that's the frustration, right? Because when you launch on a new channel, it's not going to happen overnight, no matter what. I mean, there are a couple of overnight success stories. I have a sneaking suspicion that they're mostly from like pre-2016, from Amazon at least. But overnight success is very rare. It's like the purple squirrel unicorn in the world of online retail, most of the time it's gonna take some time. It's a long-term play, and you've got to consistently tweak and analyze and look at all of the data, look at all of your sales performance, look at your seller account on each channel, and make sure um, you come up with process improvement plans all the time, because there are other people out there just like you that are doing this too. And if they're doing the work and they're doing it faster and harder than you are, then it's hard to compete with them.
You got to put in the work. I want to add one point though to that, Liz. I think that is, you've sort of implicitly said it already, but I would just say, like, stay focused, because a lot of times we will get people coming to us and they'll say, okay, I want to be on these 15 marketplaces. Can you make that happen? And they want us to, like, kind of just snap our fingers and suddenly they're mapped to all these marketplaces. And it obviously it's true that we are omni-channel, and so we can facilitate distribution to different marketplaces. So in principle, we could do that, but it's not generally the best strategy, because if you just getting your listings on there and then you're on 15 different marketplaces, it's like, you know, it's not going to be where you succeed. First of all, a smaller number of marketplaces control most of the market share, which I'm sure there are stats about that online, and we can guess at which ones they are. But also, if your focus is just that diluted, you're not gonna succeed in any one venue. So definitely, like, I would say start with one or two at most, and then add on iteratively, build the others once you feel like you're getting success on the first one or two, and then you can translate the findings from those first two out to the next one.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about advertising a little bit, but not ad nauseum. Obviously, search ads are great and they're available in lots of places. Amazon, Walmart, eBay all offer similar ad products. Obviously, Amazon's leading the charge because they've got more options. We can give you lots of information about that, but Walmart is definitely stepping up to the plate, and eBay just recently announced, in addition to promoted listings, there are promoted listings advanced, which is a new offering, and it's going to, because eBay is making a comeback, or has been coming back for a while, but we actually are offering the promoted listings advanced through our platform. Coming soon. So that's pretty exciting. We're actually having a webinar about that pretty soon. But these types of ads can give you the ability to rank top of search or page one, even if you have minimal sales history, provided that you are willing to spend, and provided that you've got a very, very smart advertising strategy. Which is great if you're a newer seller, right? Obviously, ads work better and cost less if you're winning in terms of product reviews or price, or, you know, any number of different things on any given marketplace. But it is possible to spend enough money to get there. But not all platforms have the same types of advertising. Obviously, Amazon's got a whole different slew of ad products. Walmart doesn't have as many. eBay has this new one now. You know, Target has an ad option, but their sponsored products, I think, is only available for 1P. Patrick, that brings up a good question, that just like, do you handle 3P accounts and 1P accounts, or not?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. So, our most primarily 3P. We do also, I think we've got like a beta program for Amazon 1P. So if anybody is looking for help there, we should definitely speak with you. And potentially there are many ways we can enhance your process and create efficiencies for you. So definitely worth discussing, but big focus for us is 3P. And one of the things we've observed is a lot of 1P advertisers making the migration to 3P for various reasons. So even if you're, I guess I would say if you're 1P now, it's probably worth still talking to us to just understand more about what we can do, so that if and when 3P becomes a part of your strategy, you've already got that information.
I know tons of brands that are just ditching 1P on Amazon and going to 3P. I mean, there are limited ad options for 1P on Amazon, first of all. But it's great that you've got a beta program for 1P in terms of listings, because I know that that's a huge challenge in like actually getting a hold of your own listing and making changes to it is like pulling teeth sometimes. Um, and on these other channels, a lot of these ad products are like just much more restrictive. Not everybody can do them. It's limited to a small number of categories. Sometimes they're only available for 1P, more restricted placements. So understanding the ad product that's available on the channel and understanding the potential success you might have with that type of advertising helps set your expectation. Obviously, these marketplaces are going to eventually offer more advertising solutions, just like Amazon has got the full suite for .com and several other marketplaces, but certain marketplaces that are brand new don't have any advertising options or just have sponsored products. So it takes time to roll it out, and it's complicated to incorporate advertising into your platform. But as they come, obviously we're all around to tell you about what's new and what you can do. Um, but be aware that if you're an Amazon only seller and you're looking at different marketplaces, if you're expecting the same types of ad options on other marketplaces, you're likely not going to get them anytime soon. So processes to stay ahead. This is something that I feel like when you're launching, it's super exciting and you've got all the hopes in the whole world, but then you've got to stay ahead of the pack. That's that constant like attention and attention to detail and constant improvement that we were talking about before. So Patrick, why don't you take us home with these great tips?
Yeah. So just drilling down into what we mean when we talk about feed optimization. I think these bullets here do a good job of just organizing at least into the sort of the core areas. So title is always going to be number one, right? So we definitely want to have keywords that are present in the title that people are searching with. And so just on the right-hand side, you'll notice, I think the search query term we probably used was something like Nike running shoes. It's not in here, but it's a pretty generic kind of search query, right? I don't remember if it was branded or not, but it had some of these keywords. And what we're seeing is that because Kipley has done the work to put breathable wear, sneakers, sports running, basketball shoes, because they're able to put those keywords in the title, they're able to show against that type of query. Now, of course, this is also a sponsored ad, so they're putting up the spend for this too and bidding on keywords. But part of the dynamic at play here is the composition of their title. And even this title could use a little bit of improvement, because like, why is where lowercase? Why you have a lowercase w in where? We'd want that to be uppercase, and we'd want to make sure that everything looks the way it's supposed to look. So there's probably room to optimize here further, but you can see that they've done some work here to look at how they can insert keywords to optimize their titles. That is something we would consider as feed optimization. Categories we've spoken about. You want to make sure that this is in the shoe category, not in the cutlery category by mistake, or perhaps what would be more likely to happen is it would be in like a more generic category, right? Apparel or something like that. You don't want that. You want it to be right, drilling down into the right, accurate, granular category. Descriptions, you can't see it in the example here, but definitely like those descriptions matter against search queries. They matter for determining in part whether or not that product shows up. Again, not weighted as much as title, but they still do bear some weight. And then of course they matter once you are on the page, what the customer experience is like on the landing page itself. If you've got like 2 bullets and it's a very basic listing, good luck. If you've got more rich content, it's going to be much better. Again, this depends, like if you're tapping into existing listings on Amazon as an additional seller, you have less control over the data, if any. So the name of the game there is really more, can you link your product data appropriately to that listing and then be able to fulfill on it effectively. If you're the registered brand, like in the case of Kipley here, then you have a lot more control over your data, and you want to make sure that you take advantage of that as much as possible. So yeah, I mean, these are the kind of constituent elements of optimization. And this is what our tech does led by our analysts who know kind of what's important on which channel.
Speaking of which.
Speaking of which. Cool. So integrations drive data syndication and synchronization. Absolutely. So we've talked a lot about optimization. We can optimize your data, but it doesn't matter if we can't get the data itself from where we need to get it from, or be able to send it to where we need to send it to. So Feedonomics, our reason for being, is to provide that connectivity between all of these different merchants and all of these different end marketplaces and downstream channels. So we have a pretty robust engineering team that's always looking for new integrations, but more importantly, enhancing the integrations that we have on existing systems. So this is important because otherwise, you know, if you try to do this yourself, and it is possible, you're the one who has to basically maintain connectivity with Amazon. When Amazon changes their API, you need to be the one to go and figure out how to update that API connection. If you're connecting from a Magento shop, same thing. You need to be able to basically make sure that there's always a tight fit between the marketplace and your e-commerce platform. It's not a set it and forget it situation. So that's a common misconception, especially when people are thinking about using third-party integration solutions. They think, well, I mean, I could go with, let's say, Fetanomics, but we have these software engineers and they've got room in the next sprint. Why don't they just build the integration? Okay, so that they think that, and then sometimes that's true. But once they do that, they're now on the hook to maintain those integrations indefinitely, right, forever. And the work that they've invested to build the integration with one marketplace, in this case, does not really necessarily translate to other marketplaces. So the distinction there is, okay, if you integrate once with Feedonomics, which can be pretty painless because we already have the API integrations with Shopify and BigCommerce and Magento, right? Integrate once, okay, suddenly now you can just tack on additional marketplaces as they become of interest to you. And you don't need to recreate that work over and over and over again. And you don't need to carry the overhead of maintaining those integrations indefinitely over time, which can be a steep burden cost-wise. So that's what we're here to do.
That's awesome. And that's a lot of marketplaces.
It is, yeah, and the list is getting longer all the time. I think you mentioned, Liz, like international regions for Amazon, and so we support those. There's only one circle here for Amazon, but that's actually really like maybe 20 or 30 circles for all the different regions of Amazon. eBay as well is very global. Walmart's less global, but they do have some instances outside of the U.S. Definitely. Target Plus is pretty U.S. centric. They all have their different nuances, but we actually go well beyond this. We recently integrated with one technology, a back-end marketplace technology that it's a Miracle actually. So maybe some of you have heard of that. And Miracle is actually the technology that underpins like 100 different marketplaces, largely in Europe, but all over the world. And so by integrating with that one tech stack, we were able to get access for our merchants to 100 plus different marketplaces. So it's up to you how many you want to go to. Again, stay focused. Don't go crazy and like grab everything in the candy shop. But at the same time, it is important for you to know that we can scale you laterally as that becomes the right element of your strategy.
That's great. So just to wrap up, know before you go, plan deeply before expanding, talk to people. There are lots of us in the industry that will just talk to you for free. But know your competition, know shopper profiles on different marketplaces, know what your promotional options are, figure out your supply chain. Like, think hard about it, get consultants, ask a bunch of people, develop a really well-run supply chain, and know the product content needs and options, and partner with people like Feedonomics and Teikametrics to help you succeed on these marketplaces. We do have, I think, a couple of questions, but if you've got your questions, we've got about 6 more minutes. So now is the time.
I've got a couple here that I see have come through. So one is, do you have any recommendations for how to do A+ content ourselves on Walmart.com? I would say that that's something that I could speak to it, but there's a lot of information. It's called, with Walmart, it's called rich media. That's their sort of term for A+ content. And you can find information about like sort of how to actually implement that within Walmart. The other thing that I recommend, there's not enough time to get into it in this discussion, but if you reach out to us, you could just email hello@feedonomics.com, and we can definitely provide you with more detailed information about that. And we can also hopefully do an audit and we look at your data and say, okay, here's what we would want to improve: titles, descriptions, categories, etc. And that kind of ties into another question that we got also from somebody saying, I'd like to optimize my listings on Amazon. How can I contact you for your prices? Just that, contact us, hello@feedonomics.com. And somebody's going to respond, and they'll want to set up a consultation call before they start sending out pricing information, because every use case is a little bit different. So there's a need for a conversation, but once we chat with you briefly, we should be able to get you a price pretty quickly.
That's awesome. We've got a question. We've struggled to search an item that we're already selling on Amazon to see how it's selling on Walmart. A lot of times that's difficult to just do like a naked search. We've got a market intelligence tool that really digs into the data on the Walmart marketplace, that's able to track things like this. So you would like put in your search term or put in your actual item name, and you'd be able to find it that way. So if you'd like to talk about that, then contact us. I'm just Downing at Teikametrics.com. I can put that in the chat. Downing at Teikametrics.com. I can point you in the right direction, and you can start tracking that kind of stuff. Find all your products. We have another question about what are some good best practices for budgeting for ads if I'm moving to a retailer like Walmart. Since it's an unknown for you, you can basically, like, you can go one of two ways, right? Like, you can just go full in, but it's probably smarter to, that you're gonna have to spend some more money up front, right? So I would uncap your budget a little bit to ensure that you're capturing sales within your margin tolerance. So put the bid controls on, make sure you're not going to spend more than you can handle, but kind of put that what I can handle on the higher end at first. Just depending on like what's going to keep you profitable for that product, right? In developed categories, you may need to advertise with a higher bid than you might think. So digging into that market intelligence and kind of seeing what keywords are out there and like kind of getting an idea of what other people are paying for those keywords, that might be a good idea, so that you're not like totally faced with a sticker shock kind of situation. But you are going to have to go with a higher bid to capture that demand and spin the flywheel and rank organically. But we've got people that can help you with that, so that you're not just going in blind and like setting a limit that you think is good, but isn't going to get the job done. So I encourage you to reach out and talk to us about that, because we've gotten really good at Walmart ads.
Looks like I've got one question, just asking if when we optimize a listing, do we implement the improvement? And I think the answer is yes. When we optimize listings, again, how the improvement manifests can vary depending on what type of merchant you are. But generally speaking, when we go in and we optimize the data, especially if you're the registered brand and you have control over the data, you should see some kind of improvement. I would expect that to be the case. And even if you're not the registered brand, when we get our hands on your data and we start working with you, we tend to see the frequency of error products going down, right? Like when we're providing high quality data, the marketplace typically is willing to accept more of your products and not reject them and say these are not meeting certain listing criteria. And so just by virtue of having more of your products available to sell on that marketplace, you're going to sell more. And so you're going to see a performance improvement of some kind.
But you go in and actually do it. You don't just say this is what you should do. You just actually go in and do it.
Yeah, that's a good clarification. So yeah, exactly. So we within our platform, we manage the listings, the titles and the descriptions and all of that, and then push that out to the marketplace. So it's not just that we provide you with an analysis and say, hey, you go fix your listings. No. We actually are able to take the data as you give it to us, write rules that correct it in real time so that the data that we spit out and send to the marketplace is in an optimized state when it arrives there. So the burden of work on you is actually quite minimal as the merchant. The technology and the folks on our end that operate the technology basically do it all from a data standpoint. You take more of the strategic position with it all and manage the relationship with us, but we do the actual implementation for you.
That's handy. It really is. Well, because navigating within each marketplace is like sometimes difficult too. I know Amazon Seller Central is like a really hard place to get around. So they're working on making it easier. I will say it's easier than it was like in 2015, but it's still not a walk in the park under a sunny sky with a nice breeze, as it were. Right? Well, we usually like to end these about 10 minutes early so everybody can just go ahead. Well, it's not really. So we go 50 minutes so that you've got 10 minutes before everybody has a 1 o'clock meeting every day, right? So Patrick, thank you so much. This has been so informative, so refreshing. I think that what Feedonomics does is super cool, and definitely if you're looking to expand to a different marketplace, give these guys a call. You said that it's hello@Feedonomics?
Yeah, hello@feedonomics.com. Just definitely reach out there.
Yep, and if you've got questions about advertising, you can just go to our website, Teikametrics.com, and hit talk to us. But if you've got a specific question for me, ldowning@Teikametrics.com. Thanks everyone so much, and we will see you next time. Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you, Liz. Bye.